It did not matter from whom or where he got his realization. It was the work that counted, not what someone else had done, but what he did that counted. The common people, whose cause he sponsored, heard him gladly. He did not borrow his precepts from India, Persia, or Egypt. Their teachings were but the outer that brought him to see his own Godhead and the Christ, the representation of it that was in everyone, not in a few, but in all. Osiris was born in Atlantis more than 35,000 years ago. The chroniclers of his life, long after his time, called him a god because of his wonderful works. He was a direct descendant of those in higher thought who had kept their concepts clear in the motherland of man. It was so of the great portion of all the mythological characters that have been brought down to us. Their works and characters have been distorted by repetition and translation of the stories concerning them. Their works and attainments were looked upon as supernatural by those who would not give the time and thought to go into the deeper meaning and find that they were divinely natural to man in his true dominion. The chroniclers deified Osiris. Then they began making images of him. These images only represented what he stood for at first. Then, gradually, the images became fixed in mind. The ideal was forgotten, and the empty idol remained. Buddha was another who was deified by the chroniclers long after his time. Note the images of him that have been set up, with the result that the image is worshipped instead of the ideal. Again, the empty idol. It is the same with signs and symbols. The teachings that Buddha received came from the same source as did those of Osiris, but in a different way. The teachings that Buddha contacted came from the Motherland direct to Burma, brought there by the Naacals. Osiris's teachings came direct to him, as his forefathers lived in the Motherland, and when he was a young man, he had gone to the Motherland to study. After finishing his studies, he returned home, became the leader of the Atlanteans, and brought the people back to the worship of the God within, as they were gradually slipping back to the dark concept, influenced by the dark races about them. Moses was another leader whose followers and chroniclers deified him after his time. He was an Israelite and contacted the records of the Babylonians, receiving his teachings from them. These records form a part of our Bible. What Moses saw and learned from these records was written by him in exact form and words. The facts which he put down were badly distorted by translators. I could go on and recall many more. Jesus saw and contacted all their teachings, then, in his characteristic manner, went to the heart of all these. He went one step further than any of them did, by by glorifying his body to the point where he could allow it to be crucified. Yet he brought it forth in a triumphant resurrection.